Welcome to the Anti-Social Podcast. My name is Andy Dowling. You may not know that, so just in case you're listening for the first time, it's always good to do an introduction and be polite on every possible occasion. So for those that are listening for the first time, welcome. I really hope you enjoy this episode and also go back and listen to any of the other previous episodes that we've done to date. And I say we, I always say we're all involved, even the listeners. And stick around for future episodes as well. Lots of cool things happening moving forward. But one thing that I keep forgetting to do all the time is just explain what the podcast is. And maybe the reason why I haven't done it, probably for maybe since the first episode, is because I never really know what to say. I never really know what sort of intro or pitch I should put at the start. I know a lot of the better and more popular podcasts out there have a consistent pre-recorded intro every single time. It's sort of like their elevator pitch of what their podcast is, and maybe I should do that, and maybe I might have to work on it in future. In fact, if anybody has any ideas and want to give me a one-liner or a one paragraph of what this podcast is all about, I'm all ears, and I might read out the suggestions in a future episode just for a few laughs, especially for those people that no doubt will not give me a serious one. But I think the big thing is, without spending too much time, because I like to talk too much, the podcast is all about conversation. It's about stories. It's about talking to people. It's about getting away from the texting, getting away from social media chats and liking statuses and sharing things online and not really having a great deal of verbal communication. And I know that you all are listening and not communicating as such, but I do hope that by listening to these conversations that I do put up on most of the episodes, that you feel more compelled to go and talk to people that you already know, but you might not know enough about them. And what I've found with the majority of people that I've had on to date, and a lot of people that I've got lined up as well, many of them I've known for years, and you just don't have the opportunity to really sit down and have a great talk to them and scrape anywhere below the surface to really understand, their story, or if not a particular story, just to get a better understanding of who they are and how they tick. And I think that's a bit of a lost art in this day and age in the digital world. And I think podcasts are a great way of highlighting that again. And podcasts are definitely continuing to become more and more popular. And over time, I'm going to start highlighting a lot of other Australian podcasts that I've been exposed to. And I'm talking to a lot of people that run their own podcasts in Australia, because I've always seen podcasts as a very popular thing in the United States, but not so much in Australia. But I've been lucky and very fortunate to be exposed to a number of really, really interesting, informative, hilarious podcasts that are all sort of Australian based, and some fantastic people that are trying to do similar things. So I'm going to highlight those in future episodes. But getting back on track, there is no particular theme apart from having conversations, and I no doubt over time this will refine and become more pinpointed as far as a purpose and a theme. But for me, it's just giving people an opportunity to talk, giving people an opportunity to, express their point of view, maybe tell their story, and as an offshoot, maybe in some cases, be able to use the platform as an opportunity to promote something as well. But I'm not a big fan of the typical Q&A type interviews, and I really didn't want to do that. I do ask a lot of questions in my episodes, but I try to keep it on a more conversational point of view. And, I'm no expert at any of this, so I'm just learning as I go. So over time, you'll probably notice that my methods change and evolve and hopefully improve. That might be a subjective opinion, but I'm hoping that over time things will improve. And I guess probably apart from highlighting conversation, is probably finding ways that we can all improve and become better people in our lives. And whether that be a life hack or a strategy or something that will make you more productive, something that may rest the mind, make you more calmer, maybe something where it's a perspective on a particular topic or in general on life, something that may give you reassurance, something that may give you strength, something that may inform you to be upskilled in something down the track. This is all about discovering things from conversations with a number of different people. And that's where the podcast is. That's where it's been going. That's more than likely where it will go in the future. But I think over time, my elevator pitch will become a lot more slicker. So that's certainly, unless there's about 60 floors or 100 floors in that elevator, my pitch is far too long and convoluted and vague at this point in time. But I think you guys would get the gist of what I'm all about. And would have understood that by now. And I hope for the people that are listening for the first time now aren't getting deterred by my ramblings. But I promise that that you will enjoy some, if not all, of the episodes. And this one in particular is a very special one, and one that I thoroughly enjoyed and got a lot out of. So this week is a great friend of mine by the name of Mick Goddard. Mick I've known for quite a number of years. First met, and Mick actually sort of surprised me there because I forgot all about it, but we actually met via online on an online forum of all places, with a mutual love of Iron Maiden. But my first memories, and like once he reminded me of that, I remembered, but my first initial memories were seeing Mick at dungeon shows and forming a relationship and a friendship with him through all of that. And then subsequently, when we changed the name to Lord and continued on through there, Mick has been one of our most loyal fans, and has exposed his whole family to our music. And he now has an entire Lord fan base in his own home, and all of his kids and his wife Lisa. Everybody's just a great supporter and fan of what we do, and many a times over the years they've gone above and beyond to help us as a band and promote our things, despite all their challenges and things that keep them well and truly busy in their own lives. So Mick also is heavily in the local scene as a photographer and of course a music fan, and he's done many great things with local bands and helping them to promote themselves by getting great photos of them on stage and doing promo photos as well. And in a very short period of time, as we highlight in our conversation, he's done a lot in such a short period of time, and I'm quite surprised with how much he's done. And we pick in a little bit about, the things that he's had to do to get to the point where he is, and it probably goes with no surprise. The methods that he uses is pretty straightforward and obvious, but I think there's a few lessons there for whether you're an up and coming photographer or somebody in general that's trying to get a foot in the door or trying to get some recognition with their own craft, with their own skill, whatever that might be. So definitely listen to that part of the conversation with that in mind, because I think there are some great teachings there, and this is a perfect example of what is possible if you do stick with something and you genuinely love what you do. And then, of course, we touch on Mick's son, Kai. I'm not going to really explain a great deal about it because I don't think I can do it justice. And anytime I attempt to try and talk about Kai's story to anybody else to try and describe it, I always feel guilty because I can never do it justice and explain it properly to really sort of convey the magnitude of what Mick and his whole family have been through, and especially his son Kai. So I'm going to leave that to Mick to go through and explain it, and he did a great job of running through part of the story and the things that they've had to go through. And I huge respect for Mick and his family, and extremely grateful for Mick to want and to be happy to run through the whole thing again, like he's probably done countless times now over the years. But it's appreciated that he was able to share that with me and now with all of you as well. And the big takeaway from this, and the reason why I've asked him to talk about Kai, not just because it is interesting, and I will put that out there straight away, but at the same time, I think it's all about bringing a bit more awareness to start off with, that there are families that go through a hell of a lot, and there's not just the immediate struggle of the child itself, or in this case himself, but the entire family and how they're impacted, and what is involved, and how complex and how distressing and overwhelming and all those emotions, what it can be, and by having that awareness, also being able to provide, and through this platform, some resources that people can do something to help other families that go through these scenarios all the time, especially here in Australia, and in particular the state of New South Wales. So I'm going to put a bunch of links in the show notes for you all to check out. And I do hope that if you do feel compelled to spread this conversation around, or to spread the links around, and if you feel like donating anything, or supporting something, or discussing something with somebody else, I think this is a great platform and a great opportunity to do something just to help in a bigger picture kind of way. Anyway, enough crapping on, because I'm very good at doing that, and I tend to lose track of time and realise that I've probably got most people turning off the podcast by now, or using that fast forward function. But anyway, enjoy this conversation with Mick, and I'll ramble on a little bit at the end of the episode as well. Thanks, guys. I was writing down a whole bunch of notes to talk about, and I just kept sort of writing, and figured I'd just start anywhere and just see where it takes us. I think probably the first thing to start off with, and it might be a good basis, is, can you please explain to me your love of Iron Maiden?
My love of Iron Maiden, it started way back in about 1984, maybe 1983. I was listening to AM radio, as you did back then, 2SM, I think it was. And my cousin was like, no, don't listen to that, listen to this. And he played me a track off, I think it was Peace of Mind. Yes, it was, The Trooper. And I just went, wow. And I got hooked from there. And I've followed them, loved them, and just adored their music style since then, really.
And the reason why I bring that up is probably, for the most part, I met you through Dungeon, and those early days, at least from my point of view. But I knew you more so because you were just a massive Maiden fanatic. You were just this huge Maiden fan, along with a group of other people, and that just seemed to be the big thing that sort of drew a whole stack of you together. And then as an offshoot, you guys were coming out to the Dungeon shows, and then what ended up being the Lord stuff as well. So my initial, impressions of you were just this gigantic Maiden fan, this fanatic, this person who's just absolutely
obsessed.
Obsessed. I was going to use that word. I thought, sometimes people take offense to that, but
no, you can't offend me with Iron Maiden. It's as simple as that. So back in the days of the forum with the Maiden Down Under and the Beast Down Under, the Down Under Clansmen. I think that's when I sort of first bumped into you as Aussie metal child. I think you were.
That's the one.
Yeah, and it was crazy. And the passion and everything else just grew and grew and grew. The longer they sort of refused to tour here, or promoters refused to bring them here, it grew. It was like that tension of, I don't know, losing your virginity again, so to speak, of seeing Iron Maiden live in Australia. Was just, it took them 16 years, but they finally got here.
That's right. The anticipation. I mean, I didn't see them before 2008, so I missed them on that, because the last one would have been Fear of the Dark when they toured the previous time, and I was just too young for that. But there was that much hype leading up to even an announcement, just the whispers that potentially this was going to happen, and then when it actually happened, it was just hysteric. So I don't think I'll ever experience that kind of feeling around a tour announcement ever again. And it's not just from my experience, but just to see everybody around me just lose it. It was just one of those bands that I think people just had written off and thought that they probably wouldn't come back for whatever reason.
Yeah, I mean, we all, Fear of the Dark tour 92 at the Horden. I'll never forget that night as long as I live. But yeah, then seeing Somewhere Back in Time tour shirts float around the internet with Australian dates on the back of them, and we're like, they're coming again, like back then.
Yeah. And
it never happened. And then Fear of the Dark had happened, and then we heard rumours about Australia for the world, Somewhere Back in Time world tour, and we're like, yeah, they said this before, it's not going to happen. And then all of a sudden, bang, the big announcement come that morning, and yeah, the forums just went nuts, and the old MSN chat lines went nuts. It blew up. It went astronomical, and yeah, it was absolutely crazy times.
There was, I'll always have fond memories of that 08 tour, because I think, like yourself, you went to multiple shows, didn't you? Did you go to all of them, or just...
Only one I missed was Perth.
Yeah. So it was the same as me, and I think you would have met a good friend of mine, Tonchi from Brisbane, because I think he used to be on the boards as well as the Hellion, and I remember talking to him, and the tickets went on sale, and he's just like, let's do them all. And I'm like, yeah, all right, sounds good. And then Perth was just way too expensive to get over there. But we snapped up the other 5 shows just straight away without even thinking. And it's like, oh, okay, so we've got the tickets. Now we've got to work out how to get the rest of the money together.
But I was the same.
Yeah, but it was over a period of about a week, and a week and a half, maybe just over a week. And for the two of us anyway, we took that entire period off, and we did the 2 Melbourne shows, then we hung out there for a while, then we got up to Sydney and hung out for a while, and then did the shows up in Sydney, and then we flew back up to Brisbane and did the last show up there. And it was just, I don't think I've ever drunk that much beer in my life, but it was just the most amazing time and the most amazing energy across all 3 cities, and just seeing so many people, and people that I'm sure that you're the same with the guys from the boards and fan club and everybody out and about. Just, it's a big reunion in some ways.
Yeah, it was. It was a chance to finally meet some of these people in person. We actually I shared the flight with you to Brisbane, I remember.
That's right.
We were on the same flight up to Brisbane with my young bloke Reese.
Yeah.
And he was only 12 years ago. He was only 12 years old then.
Yeah, wow.
I took him up to Brisbane with me for the show. That was an insane week and a bit. We had friends. We stayed at friends' houses in Melbourne that we'd never met. And they're like, yeah, no, you're staying at our place. We'll pick you up at the airport. Then they flew up to Sydney, and they stayed at our place for the 2 nights while the Sydney shows were on. And then we flew to Brisbane together, and we stayed in this caravan park. I think we had a budget of about $40 left by the time Brisbane rolled around for food and everything else. But yeah, it was just an insane week. One hell of a week.
Absolutely. Did you go? I can't remember if you were at the because the Maiden fan club had a meet in Sydney down at the Rocks at one of the hotels down there. Did you go to that? I can't remember if you were there or not.
I missed that one.
Yeah.
I actually was still working in between shows.
Ah, gotcha. You're being
trying to keep funding, a wife and 2 young kids.
Oh, that's it. Yeah.
3 kids back then. Yeah.
You're being far more responsible. Far more responsible than
Well,
me.
It was only very borderline responsible, I tell you. But no, I didn't get to that one. But the big global meetup in Melbourne at the Corner Hotel
Yeah.
was an amazing event.
Oh, that was incredible. That was incredible. It was just, just a great vibe around the place and a lot of electricity with just so many people, especially for that, because there was obviously a crew of people that went to the Perth show as well. But for the most part, everybody was there. Without discrediting Perth, which everyone appears to do all the time, that first night in Melbourne was definitely felt like the first night of the Australian tour.
Definitely.
And it just that feeling around the place with everybody there was just an incredible feeling. And then that first night in Sydney as well, where they had the full, well, what was called Acer Arena at the time, and the entire place was opened up for it, and it was just everyone was over at the old Novotel pub beforehand, and just everywhere you looked, there was just somebody that you recognised, somebody that you knew, and it was just, it got to a point, and I'm slightly embarrassed to say it, but I mean, we didn't see the support band at all, because I think that was Bring Me the Horizon, I think, in Sydney, which was
behind Crimson Eyes.
Oh, behind Crimson Eyes, that's right. Oh, yeah.
Yes,
and
that was a train wreck.
Yeah, I don't. Anyway, the
that's another story.
That's right. The support selections for maiden tours aren't crash hot. I mean, at least Melbourne and Perth got Vanishing Point, which is pretty good. But apart from that, they don't. I don't understand. But anyway, we were.
Unless you're over somewhere else and you get the likes of Anthrax,
in South America at the moment. That's just incredible. But it's I didn't. We didn't go see the support bands, but someone had to tap me on the shoulder and remind me that Maiden was about to start, and we had to walk over, and it almost got to a point where I was saying, "Oh, damn! Like already?" Because we're having so much fun just socializing.
Stop drinking.
Yeah, that's right. Remove yourself from the bar. You can stop. You can talk later. It's like, oh, damn it!
Exactly.
Maiden's playing, like first world problems.
Yeah.
And was it that tour that did you jump up on stage with them?
Yes, second night in Sydney.
Yeah. So can you
Heaven Can Wait.
Can you walk me through what the process was, how you actually got that, and what you had to do on the night?
That was through the fan club. My Daniel Mason, the guy that used to run the Beast Down Under forums, he wasn't going the second night. So I grabbed a heap of guys together. We all threw in some money, bought him a ticket for the second night. He got the second night. He then put in to win Heaven Can Wait on stage, which you had to go through on the fan club. And he was the one that actually won it, and you're allowed to bring the guest up on stage.
Yeah, right.
So I'm at work out at Dowling Harbour, and he rings me up. He goes, "Dude, I just got the email. I've won Heaven Can Wait. You organised me the ticket. I'm taking you with me." And I'm like, fuck, yes. Unreal, amazing. And not 10 minutes later, I split that open and just blood gushing everywhere. It's a whole different story.
Right, okay.
So I get taken off site, go to the medical centre, get patched up, come home, jump on the computer, check my emails, bang, I've won it as well.
Oh.
So I rang him. I said, "Dude, guess what? I've won it as well." He's like, "Sweet." So we organised a couple of mates, Adrian and a couple of the others. And we said, "Right, the four of us, we're going up there." So sweet. So the night, I think it was the second night, the 10th. It's 10th of February. And they're like, go to the box office, collect your little sticker during, I can't remember the song preceding it now. Actually, I think it was during Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. We had to go round to door 2, I think it was, at Acer at the time, show them our pass, and they lead us in backstage.
Yeah.
So you're standing there backstage, and we were right behind, I think it was Michael Kenny at the time on keyboards for them, and we're standing there, and there's a group of us standing there, and like through this very sheer curtain, there's Iron Maiden, and I'm just standing there going, this is just surreal. I couldn't believe it. Honestly, I could not believe it. And he goes, right, when I tell you, I'm going to pull the curtain back, and then you go, and when we tell you get off, you don't fuck around, you get off, or you won't ever. It was really strict.
Yeah.
Like on, off, and don't do anything or whatever. So Heaven Can Wait starts up, and it comes up to the chorus, and we all sing. We know it's coming, and then next thing the curtain gets pulled back, and bang, it's a rush on the stage. Everybody goes towards Steve. I spotted Bruce somewhere near the centre, and I just sort of headed that way. But Bruce ended up hiding behind one of the sarcophaguses that were on stage, and we're there doing the whoa, whoa, whoa during Heaven Can Wait. And next thing, I feel this bang, whack into my shoulder, and I turn around, and it's Bruce hiding behind the sarcophagus. He'd come up and bumped into me during the, but in the blink of an eye, he was gone again.
Right.
Absolutely amazing. And as we're walking off stage, Yannick's guitar tech standing there, and I just pointed, and there was one of Yannick's wristbands sitting on the headstock of one of his guitars, and I just pointed, and he picked it up and he handed it to me as I was walking off stage. Wow. And to this day, it sits by the place next to my PC. It's, yeah. And then we got to sit basically side of stage for the rest of the show.
That's
best
cool.
seats in the house. It was an amazing experience.
That's incredible.
Absolutely amazing. Yeah.
Was there anything
Still remember it like it was yesterday.
Was there any strict rules that they had? Like, obviously, they mentioned before you went on, just no stuffing around on stage or anything like that. But leading up to it, like even on the email that you got, was there any T's and C's associated with it, or anything that you guys had to be told beforehand just to avoid any chaos, or was it more of a case of once you were there, they sort of just quickly ran through it and didn't stuff around too much?
It was basically collect your pass, you'll get your instructions in an envelope. And it was just a printed instruction, meet the representative at door, I can't remember what door it was, during this song, which I think was Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. I can't remember the set list in order at the time, but I think it was during Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. We had to meet the representative. They marked a roll sort of thing, and they said, look, this is the deal. No phones, no this and whatnot on stage. You can get it as close to the guys as you want, but do not grab them or touch them in any way.
Yep.
By all means, put your arm around them. That is about the only exception.
Yeah.
If you're lucky enough to get close, and it's usually Steve that's the only one that's there, he doesn't mind you putting his arm, but don't grab or pull or try to do anything untowards.
Don't start cutting off bits of his hair or anything like that.
Yeah, don't go ripping at wristbands or guitar picks. Well, Steve uses picks, but don't go trying to rip his guitar strap or whatever off him. It's just don't be a dick, basically. Yeah. But apart from that, it was fairly strict. When they seated us side of stage, we couldn't get our phones out to film or take photos, which I thought was a bit strange because the people in the 2 rows away from us wouldn't have even been 6 foot. They could sit there with their phone and film the whole set. But because we were sitting in this special area, security is like, no, put your phone away, no filming.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, okay.
a small price to pay, I guess.
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
Did you get to meet them at all, like later on, or no? Just wasn't a chance.
No.
Yeah.
Not a chance. I tried to stalk them for nearly 6 hours in Melbourne at the hotel.
Yeah.
The first night in Melbourne to try and meet them. Caught a quick glimpse of Yannick and Adrian coming down an elevator.
Yeah.
But by the time we got to the ground level, they were already gone and in a taxi. So I never actually got to meet them. Although a lot of people that I know did, lucky buggers. But
yeah, I remember seeing, it might have been the night before the Brisbane show, and there's a bunch of guys and a few people that I knew that must have caught a whiff of them being in town, and they end up, I'm pretty sure it wasn't after the show. I'm pretty sure it was the night before. I could be wrong, but no, it couldn't have been the night before because they're in Sydney the night before. But anyway, whatever it was, they were at one of the bars in the middle of Brisbane just drinking. And they all and a whole bunch of people found out and went down there, and they were all having beers with Steve and Bruce and a few of the other guys. I don't know if all of them were there, but I remember seeing a few photos pop up online the following day and just went, oh, damn it.
Yeah, no, it happens a lot. They just sort of wander out after the show for a drink, or on their night off, they just sort of wander out into a pub or a bar somewhere, and they don't really have a lot of minders or security with them. They're fairly easygoing guys from what I've seen.
Yeah. I guess from their point of view, they can handle themselves when it gets a bit crazy. They can just get out of there pretty quickly. And I think it'd be awesome if you're like one of the first people in there and the place is pretty quiet, and then they come in. So you've got like that first opportunity just to have a beer with them and have a quick chat before everyone finds out and comes in and starts swarming them.
That'd be an amazing 10 minutes or 15 minutes, wouldn't it? Just to sit there and pick the brains of Bruce Dickinson or Steve Harris. It'd be just,
Absolutely. And are you going to go and see them on this tour? I assume that's probably a very dumb question.
Yes, very, very, very much so. Very much so.
And have you managed to score yourself a photo pass for it?
I'm trying. I've got applications and requests in. Fingers crossed that they come to fruition.
Yep, cool. That'll be a bucket list.
Mate, somebody asked me the other day, what are your top 5 bands you want to shoot? I said, Iron Maiden, Iron Maiden, Iron Maiden, Iron Maiden, and Iron Maiden. And if you want to know my next 5, it repeats the top 5.
Oh well, well, fingers crossed, and you've had a pretty good run of some pretty high profile bands over the last definitely over the last 6 to 12 months. So I think you're in a good position to hopefully nab it. So I'll be cheering from the sidelines if and when you get that green light, because it'd be very cool to see, especially given how big of a fan you are.
Oh, mate, I think you're down the south coast now. I think you'd hear me screaming from there, mate. The day I get the email saying I've got it.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, if it ends up happening, we'll have to throw something online so it's a bit of a follow-up thing, so people will be curious to see if it end up happening or not, and we'll put a few pictures up. Maybe you'll have to do like a big selfie of you in front of the stage or something with your camera, which might be a bit blasphemy saying selfie with your type of camera, but it'll still work.
I'm sure I could find somebody along the barrier there that would be happily to take a photo of me in front of the stage. Sounds good. Well, there's a good chance it could be my son. So Reece could be. There's a good chance he swears blind he's going to get on the barrier for this show. So fingers crossed he'll be on that side and I'll be on the other.
Sounds good. Well, that's my perfect segue into your photography. Did you like that?
Good segue. You've done well.
Yeah. I'm learning. I'm getting better. So a few years ago, you started doing band photography, doing a lot of live shows sort of around the local traps. Now, I can't remember exactly how long ago it was because it's a bit of a blur now. I remember you at some shows taking photos, and I remember you at other shows not taking photos, and I can't remember exactly where it sort of started. But I guess my question would be, well, what was the first show you took photos of, and what got you into it anyway? I mean, were you already taking photos around the traps beforehand? Was it just a natural progression to start doing it, blending the two loves together, or what was there something else that just sort of got you going?
I've had a fascination with photography for a long time, since I was a kid. Always loved it. I think you were the one that said a virtual memory document. And that's exactly. I've always loved creating that, taking photos and whatnot. And I got lucky one year with a good sized tax return and had a bit of spare dollars, and I thought, I'm going to buy myself. I've always wanted an SLR camera. I've always wanted the old film SLRs, and by the time I could afford one, it had already gone into the digital age. So I went and bought a digital camera and started just taking photos, and then just generally looking online and everything else come along. And Anwar, you had him on earlier.
Yep.
I seen some of his stuff, and I think he photographed. I can't remember. It may have been Kiss way back when, 2010, 2011, something like that.
Yep.
And I thought, oh man, how good would that be to combine my passion for heavy metal and music and the photography, and I want to do that. So I got chatting to Anwar and just sort of progressed on to that, and he's like, go and see what you can do. And this is what you basically need as a basic setup to do it. See how you go. So the very first show I done was you guys actually at Liverpool PCYC.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Right. So I remember that.
2012, I think it was.
Yep.
With Electric Dynamite. I can't think.
Carmeria and
There's
somebody else, but I can't remember the other band.
Killer Pill.
Yes. Yep.
With Blake Kathiris.
Yep.
On bass.
And
yes. Yes. That was my very first experience at taking photos of a live show. Yep. And then I sort of, that year, I think that was that the digital? No, what tour would that have been? I can't remember.
Yeah, it would have been digitalised, but it was just before
been digitalised.
Before the album got released.
Before the release, that's right.
Yeah.
And I sort of followed you guys around sort of Liverpool, Wollongong, Sydney, and just sort of, just practiced on you guys, and it just sort of grew from there. I really enjoyed it. I loved it. You know, coming home and looking and seeing if you've got that shot, you know, that you just look back and go, wow, you know, that was good.
Yeah.
And it sort of progressed from there. And then thanks to Brian Giffen from Loud and Anwar at Metal Obsession, I've been given opportunities to shoot some of the bigger names to grace our shores.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's funny because I could have sworn you got started at least doing the live stuff long before then, but that's not even 4 years ago. So I mean, because that Liverpool show would have been the second half of 2012. So I don't know what month, but I'm saying September or October possibly. So roughly around that time. So you haven't. I mean, 3.5 years it's incredible because, you know, I mean, I do remember that show. I remember you taking photos of that show, but then not long after that, you would still. I think you got a great name in the local scene where you're always out at shows taking photos of the local guys and the local sort of, even from the Australian sort of bands coming through town and doing the shows and whatnot. And I think that sort of really got word out there. But before I knew it, sort of like the blink of an eye, you were doing all these international shows, and then it got to a point where not too long ago you were going all over the place, you know, taking photos of Kiss when they last toured and doing a lot of really great shows for big touring companies. And it's just, I sort of went, oh, what happened? it was almost like a blink of an eye the way that it happened. But I mean, obviously, it not something that it just happens and it's purely luck. I mean, you've put a lot in over the last few years to get the opportunities that you get now. And you mentioned like people like Anwar and Brian from Loud who obviously helped sort of secure a lot of these gigs along the way. But is there anything else that you sort of did to sort of make sure that you were in the right place at the right time and made sure that you were in the topic of conversation when it came for people looking for a photographer? And the reason why I asked that is because there's so many people out there that take photos. There's so many people that will class themselves as a photographer. A lot of people that work for magazines, whether it be like a freelance sort of thing or whether they work in a even more professional capacity. There is a fair bit of competition out there. So I don't know whether it was a conscious thing that you did, but was there something that you sort of had to do or felt that you needed to do to make sure that you're in the topic of conversation for these types of things?
Oh, I don't think so. I don't really think I done anything special. I mean, in the early days and still today, the local shows are what I love. I love going to see the bands, the local bands that I love, and shoot them and have them share my photos and have their profile pictures and, you know, be it my photo or any other photographers that get out there and shoot a live show. I think it's a great buzz, especially for me, because I'm also a fan of the band that I go. I don't go and shoot a band just to impress somebody or get in the good books with a certain promoter or whatever. If you've put on a good lineup of bands that I like, I'm going to come and I'm going to take photos and I'm going to enjoy it and I'm going to put them up online and try and help the local bands, the local scene get healthier, which will then improve the national scene, which will improve the international scene, and it'll improve the metal scene as a whole.
Yeah.
I remember way back when I first started, I was shooting a lot of local shows, and I was pestering Brian with a lot of content, giving him stuff to try and work my way in to get the local shows. You know, you can't just turn up and say, "Hey, I have a camera. Can I go and photograph band XYZ?" It doesn't happen. You've got to get out there and prove in the dirty, dark pubs of the local scene. I don't mean to sound wanky in any sort of way in that sense. You can't just do that. You've got to, I don't know, earn your stripes. It's a bit like an opening band. You know, a young up-and-coming band gets given the opportunity to play with Lord as an opening band, and 2 years later, well, they're playing second band under Lord. You know what I mean? They've worked their way through the ranks, and the same goes with the local photographers. I think that's if you want it bad enough and you work hard enough, you can get it. There's definitely no financial gain in it whatsoever. You know, I might make a few dollars, selling a print to a fan, but that's about it. But in saying that, you build up a reputation with the local bands. They approach you to do, a press kit for them or a promotional pack for them, and or I've just done with Temptress their new CD coming out. All the imagery that they're using to promote that, and in with the CD, you can earn a couple of dollars in that aspect.
And I mean, you've definitely. I think the thing that works to your advantage is that, I mean, just from what you told me over the years and what you just said then, is that you've done this to fulfill an enjoyment and look at it as a bit of a hobby and do something that you enjoy doing, and there's a genuine approach to it. You haven't gone in there to say, well, there's a way that I can make some money off this and and it's like a business sort of approach to it. You've as you said before, you've combined two loves, two passions, and made something that encompasses both of them and increases the joy factor with it all. And as a result, you've been able to, find more opportunities because of it and more things that fulfill it. So it's not, just from what you're saying, it's not about making money, because that's not an easy thing to do. I think it's not an easy thing to do regardless of any type of service or any type of art or anything of the such. But yeah, I mean, I think that your genuine approach to it, and the fact that I think everybody knows that. Everybody who's seen you at shows and sees your stuff online, everybody knows that you're a gigantic music fan and you're a massive supporter of local artists. And I think that's part of the charm. I think that's why a lot of people gravitate towards what you do and approach you and whatnot, because there's no ulterior motive there to try and get some dollars out of people.
Yeah, no, that's, if anything, it's the other way. It's to try and help get them some dollars.
Yeah.
To raise, to try and raise some interest or awareness in their upcoming show, or, to put a photo of you up, and you've got a gig coming up. I'll go to the event page. 9 times out of 10, I'll put a photo of Lord up on the event page to try and help generate the numbers, to try and get a few more punters through the door, to try and rebuild a crippling scene here in Sydney, which is, everybody's going to try and do their own little bit. And it's just like any of the bands today that are playing the local circuit, I'm fairly certain 99.9% of them aren't making any money. They're probably just covering costs.
Oh.
They're digging into their own pockets to produce CDs, to produce merch, to sell CDs, to sell merch, to make new CDs and make new merch. It's not like they're driving around in BMWs and living in Vaucluse on you know what I mean? They do it because they love it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's probably why it works so well, because there's that like-minded approach where nobody's in it for higher gain at the expense of anything else. It's a case of everyone's everyone works hard because they love it, and if anything more comes of it, then it's it's icing on the cake, and it's a bonus.
It's a bonus.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
On the whole topic of, I guess, being heavily a part of, well, I guess I was just going to say the local scene, but I guess in general, even with some of these bigger shows that you take photos of, are there any particular, I was going to say challenges, but even pet peeves of certain things that just absolutely make your life difficult as a photographer? The things that, whether it be while taking photos or even afterwards, what are there certain things that just really make it difficult at times? This is where you can rant.
The only thing that really makes it difficult, that makes our job as live music photographers difficult, depending, okay, let's look at the local show. The local show is difficult because they don't have the production, they don't have the lighting, they don't have the what they need to create that image. They don't have, to create an image you need light. Without light, you can't create an image, and if you do, it's going to look like shit. Which is why you'll often see me. I'll have a rant, fucking red lights or fucking shit lights, or hey, Mr. Light Guy, we need to see the band, not just a silhouette of them. You know what I mean? And I'll often walk into a local venue, and the band will start playing, and fuck, there's nothing at the front of the stage. All the lights behind the band, so all you're seeing is a shadow on stage.
Yeah.
And I'll often walk up to the lighting guy or the sound guy, whoever's doing it, and say, hey, dude, can we just throw a bit of white light at the front? Have your colours at the back and at the sides, but just give us a bit of white light at the front so we can see their faces, so we know who we're seeing.
Yeah.
And 99% of them will go, yeah, cool, man, no worries. And they'll put a bit of white light, happy days.
Yeah.
And not just me as a photographer. I've spoken to people that go to shows, fans that go, and they're like, we don't want to stare at a wall of light. We want to see the band.
Yeah, yeah.
We don't want to stand here and watch these shadows on stage play songs that we can hear on a CD. That's the biggest challenge of a local show. Of the bigger shows, a lot of them can be contractual releases that you need to sign in regards to the artist claiming that they own the photos that you take, and we have to give them all our photos and they can use them as they want without paying for it, and this, that and the other. I recently refused to shoot a show because I got a request from management for every image I took at the venue, not just of the artist, every image I shot at the venue during that night to be supplied to them within 5 working days, all digital files that I shot. For what reason? We might want to use them for promotional use and this, that and the other. And I'm like, no, sorry. As much as that artist respects their work, I respect mine. And I'm not going to hand over every photo I've taken to you for free. To go on and make more money out of what I've done. Will you give me 200 of their CDs to go and sell for free? No.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I'm only taking an assumption here, but they're not paying you a fee to rock up and take photos. I mean, they're pretty much giving you the privilege of free entry to take shots of them, and then they're taking.
No, I could only photograph the first song, and then I had to leave.
Yeah, right. So
there's
not much in it for you at all.
and I couldn't use the images for any sort of promotional work for myself.
Yeah.
Now, if a local band come up to me and said, Mick, can you come and shoot our show and give us 50 photos that we can use online for promotional use and whatever, mate, not a problem. Give me free entry and buy me a beer and I'll do it. But if you're a big international touring artist that's making millions of dollars a year and you expect a photographer that's not getting paid, that has to pay for his own gear, pays for his petrol, pays for his fuel, pays for his parking, pays for everything to get there. You give him entry, and you want to take everything, all his work off him. No, come on. Let's be fair dinkum.
It's it definitely gives a clear sign of what value they put in that service, which is nil, because they're not valuing anything that's been put into it whatsoever. They're taking the final product, and if anything, in a lot of cases, if you wouldn't be the only person there taking photos either. So there's probably a really high chance that they probably never use any of the shots that you take photos of, and they just collect dust virtually, and the whole thing's a waste of time. Apart from you getting in there and getting to watch one song and take photos for one song, and that's it. And it's just that'd be a huge insult.
By the same token, they could whack it on a live CD cover or a live DVD cover. Sell 2 or 3 million copies worldwide,
and you wouldn't get anything from it.
And they're going to get, even if they got $1 a copy, they've made themselves $2 or $3 million off my imagery.
Absolutely.
Or throw it on a shirt and sell it for $25 a shirt.
And it'd be interesting to see whether, even if it got to a point like that, while there's bugger all chance you would ever get any money from it, whether you would even at the very least get any form of credit for it, which would be probably unlikely as well if they're conducting themselves that way in the first place.
Yeah. That's one of the big hurdles you face with the bigger bands. But a lot of them are just, 90% of them are just like, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
3 songs, no flash, blah, blah, blah. Yep, know the deal, buddy. Occasionally you might get a security guard that can't count, and he tries to throw you out after the second song, or quite often if you get the second song, it might have a low point somewhere in the middle of the song and then kicks off again. They think, oh, that's the 3 songs out you get. I'm like, no, dude, that was only 2. We can count. We know the rules. And they're like, no, out you get. And you get buzzed out of the pit after 2 songs, and you're like, dude, really? Or you get like we had with Killer Be Killed at Soundwave, where they pulled us out after 1 song because it was just too dangerous.
Yeah, right. What was that? Just because of people coming over the barrier, or
coming over the barrier and the extra security that they had to pull in there? There was no room for us. It was too dangerous for us.
Too many people.
Too dangerous. It was too dangerous for security. It was just bodies flying everywhere.
Wow. Right. Okay.
Yeah. So we got 1 song of Killer Be Killed and out.
Definitely adds to the atmosphere or something like that. I mean, at least in a situation like that, it's pretty much just a set of circumstances that are out of most people's control. I mean, they probably should have had a bit of foresight to make sure that there's sufficient room, but that's more of an uncontrollable situation as opposed to somebody who can't count, or somebody with some crazy requests or rules or legalities or anything like that. So do you find it frustrating that, especially, I mean, you never get it on a local scene. I'd be very surprised. Actually, I'd laugh if this ever happened in the local scene. If it ever does, please tell me. But do you find it frustrating with at times with the international bands where you're only allowed to take photos for the first 3 songs? Because I think I understand why they do it. I think they want everyone to look pretty while they still aren't sweating their balls off, and get everybody out of the way before an hour into the set where everyone's looking a bit worse for wear. But does that frustrate you at all, or are you happy with? Is it? I mean, it gets the job done. You get enough shots, and that's okay, and you can stand back after that, or what's the...
No, I fully respect it, and I understand it. You mentioned Kiss earlier. We only got the first 2 songs with Kiss in Newcastle, but we were more than welcome to come back in and watch the rest of the show, which is fine. We had to leave our camera gear, in the cloakroom, and more than welcome to come back in and watch the show. Other bands, you can shoot the first 3 from inside the photo pit, and then you're more than welcome to shoot the rest of the set from anywhere in the venue. You're allowed that media access. You can shoot the whole show, but you can only do the first 3 from inside the pit. Then go and shoot it from anywhere you want in the crowd. Go for it. Others are like, no, first 3 and then you're out, cloak your gear and come back in. Epica. We could take photos from the crowd after the first 3, which was good. Nightwish, we could take some from outside the crowd. It all depends on the band, and you know, I respect their wishes. They've worked hard to build their image. They don't want some chatty photographer getting a photo of them with, you know, their face all distorted and makeup running everywhere and, you know, just portraying a bad image. So I can respect that in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe I should start doing that when we play shows. You can only take photos for the first 3, then you have to piss off. I don't want...
Quite often I'll do that at a local show too. If it's a good sized crowd, I'll only shoot the first 2 or 3 songs, and then I'll move away from the front of the barrier and or the front of the stage area and let the punters in there and let them go. And, you know, I'll take a few from up the back and, you know, and then just sit back and watch the rest of the set.
Well, it's probably a good way to approach it because, I mean, to start off with, you're getting those close-up shots out of the way to begin with, and everybody's pretty fresh and everyone's enthusiastic at the start, so you're probably going to get a lot more. I was trying to think of a better word than sort of action shots, but you're going to get a lot more out of the band on stage for the first few songs anyway to begin with, and then, as you said, you move back and you're taking more sort of ambient shots of the crowd in the venue and getting more of a take of what the atmosphere is, you know, around the stage, not just what's happening directly on the stage. So it's a good approach.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think if I had something else I was going to ask you and I completely forgot now.
Or were you looking for another segue?
No, I wasn't. I didn't even think of how I do the next segue actually. But one of the other things I was going to ask is, 2 things. Was there anybody in particular? I know you mentioned Anwar to begin with, who you sort of looked to as far as, I guess, a benchmark or somebody that you wanted to be able to at least get to that sort of level of photography to take live shots. Was there anybody else or any other sort of influences or anything like that you sort of drew upon, whether it be local or global?
I've always had a great respect for Ross Halford, just with his association with Iron Maiden. Yep. Him, John McMurtry, both again Iron Maiden, but not just Ross Halford for his Maiden stuff. It's just for his general scene. Like he is, to me, he is the heavy metal photographer. You know, from White Snake to Black Sabbath, from Guns N' Roses to Iron Maiden. He's covered them all. Really? You know, and they don't just say, oh yeah, Ross is here, first 3 in the pit. They're like, Ross, you're on tour with us. You're going to document the whole lot, you know. And he does sound check. It's just he is, you know, Mr. Heavy Metal, as far as I'm concerned, is in that sort of photography sort of genre. He's
incredible. He's I think what makes, at least for me, what makes me a big fan of his work is that the live stuff that he does take is great, but it's exactly what you said, being on the road and all those candid photos and the photos of the band and you know, the sound checks and being on the road and all the antics. And it's not even from an antics point of view, it's not like getting any sort of incriminating crazy photos or anything. It's that candidness that just makes his shots just incredible. And then obviously, you know, the stuff tied in with all the incredible live stuff that he does, because I think the big thing that I noticed with his photography is that a lot of his photos that he takes really puts the viewer in perspective of what's going on stage. Like, it's not just a case of, like, you know, he's done Metallica for years, and you might see a picture of James Hetfield and go, oh yeah, it's just James Hetfield on stage. But the way that he takes a shot is it shows the magnitude of this larger than life presence, this personality on a larger than life stage in a large setting with everything else around him. And it magnifies what you're actually looking at. It's not just this person on a stage and that's it. And, you know, those famous crowd photos, and he's done that for all the bands, you know, the massive perspective shots from behind the stage, behind the drum riser, you know, the shots of the side shots where they're sort of, you know, playing to the crowd and you can see half the crowd, half the stage, and just incredible photographer. Like, I'm a massive fan of what he's done. So, and that's something I was just going to say really quickly as well, going back to the candid thing. I've noticed that with a lot of stuff that you do as well, especially from the local scene, is that you have made an effort, and this is probably one thing that many other photographers don't do, at least in the Australian music scene, where you have gone around and taken photos of the punters, you've taken photos of the people in the crowd singing along and getting into it, or even having beers and smiles on their faces and enjoying themselves and really documenting. And I think you've done a great job of, at least in Sydney anyway, to really show what it can be like to go out and see live music. And I think if more people did that, especially from a photographer point of view, where, yeah, okay, it's great to document and promote the artists and see everything that's happening on stage, but to get a feel of what it's like to walk into a live venue and see live music and the people that are there. I mean, you've definitely made a conscious effort of that over the last couple of years, especially by really highlighting that. And I always wish that more photographers did that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole package. You know what I mean? It's like Ross getting the crowd shot at Maiden. Just because Maiden are in the foreground, it's the 50,000 people behind him that make the show. And it's the same whether it's 5, 10, 15, 20 or 50 at a local Sydney show. They're what make the show. And over the years, I've got to know some of these guys and girls, and there's some great characters out there. You know, they really are. And it's like, I don't know, how would you describe it? It's like a family reunion, especially if you haven't had a gig for a while. You know, you rock up and everybody knows everybody, and everybody's a mate, everybody's a brother, everybody's a sister. It's hugs, it's fives, it's beers, it's something it's a special thing to be a part of, and to be able to capture that and share it with everybody is I love doing it.
I think that's a big thing that makes I think is a great way, and not to do it consciously for that purpose. I mean, I remember over the years always asking you, going, make sure you get pictures of people in, Lord shirts and take pictures of the crowd and people enjoying themselves, because from our point of view, and I was quite trying to be a little bit strategic about it, but I wanted people to understand what going to a Lord show was all about. I wanted them to see, there's a bunch of guys on stage having fun, and we'll put on a show, but if you come along, there's more to it than just that. You're going to have a good night. There are good people there, and there's a great social atmosphere and whatnot. And you certainly helped us do that, the times that you've been able to take photos for us. And I always say this to other people out there, and even just to other bands, other musicians, and I say, if you guys are getting somebody to come along and take photos, really push them to take photos of other people that are there. And even if it's a measly turnout, it's not a big crowd, at least get a few candid shots of whether it be, getting, setting up or packing down, or even just the punters that are there, and you can do the close-up shot of just them and not make out how many people are in the room. But it's about just creating that feeling of what it can be like. And there's a lot of couch potatoes, a lot of people that sit on the fence and go, I can't be bothered getting out. But if they see that everybody else is out there having a great time, then that it's human instinct. You kind of think, well, I want to be a part of that. It looks like fun and I don't want to miss out, so I'll come out. And the bonus is that there's going to be a bunch of great bands playing as well. So yeah,
that's it. That's exactly it.
Yeah, so I love that, and I think if there's any budding photographers out there, I think that's one way to separate yourself from the crowd straight away is being there to document the entire night, not just to document who's on stage. And I know that I got a lot of those ideas from people like there's a guy, he doesn't take too many photos these days, but old Daniel Farsky, or Daniel Farr, I should say, and he called himself Farsky. Yeah. And he used to do a lot of the shots at the Club Venom in the city, and when it was called Blink as well. And he would just go around. These were, for anybody who doesn't know what these are just like sort of alternative music nights or metal nights, and you just go there, there's a DJ playing, and just go there and drink and get messy. But he would go around and take photos of everybody. So it's very much like a club scene, where you a lot of the clubs out there, regardless of the genre, will hire photographers for the night to go around, and that's their promo angle. That's to show, if you want a great night out at this club, then you come out and here's all the beautiful people and everyone and the drinks flowing or whatever, and you might not be able to get away with the beautiful people side at a metal show. There's a few glamours there every once in a while, but it's that concept of promoting, promoting a setting and promoting a place is something that I feel that it's still largely forgotten within the music scene, especially the metal scene in Australia. I think if more people really push that, then I think the numbers will naturally increase because of that. And everyone loves, the big thing with a lot of these clubs is they put all the photos online, and on the Sunday or the Monday or whatever it is, everybody's tagging each other in the pictures. They're checking up to see if the photos from Club Venom have been put up, or Blink, or whatever the club is, to quickly flick through and see if they can find any horrible incriminating photos or any photos where they're looking reasonably sober and good looking, and they go and tag each other in them, and that creates a buzz in itself. So it's like exactly what Maiden were doing as well, taking the photo of the crowd, and everyone would scour the photo to see if they're in there, and then go and tag themselves in there and share that photo around, get excited because they're in a photo that's posted on Iron Maiden's page. And it's all that people interaction. So
it's like making the back page of the Sunday paper with the Sydney scene. It's now just moved online now. And if you can do that with a metal show and help build that metal show, well, so be it.
Absolutely, definitely. Well, I've got no segue into the next section, but I'm going to hit you up anyway. Actually, I've got one. You mentioned your son before, and your son is one.
Which one? I've got 4 of them.
No, but you mentioned one of them earlier.
Yep.
But he's one of many. So you've got a large family. Do you like this? I'm smoothly sailing into the next section here.
Okay.
So you've got an extremely large family. I can never remember how many kids you've got. How many kids you got in total?
6.
6. Yeah.
6. Yes.
Yeah. So I've popped.
And yes, I own a television.
I've popped around a couple of times, and I've always been quite floored with. Well, yeah. I mean, look, whether it be growing up or going to other people's places with kids, and most are either just stuck on the couch and won't bat an eyelid, or they might be forced or prodded by the parents to be pleasant and say hello, and that's about it. But you walk in the front door of your place, and you're right, you get swarmed, and it's and you're getting pulled in every direction. It's like, oh, come over here, I've got something to show you, and come into my room and have a look at these toys or whatever, or let me show you the lizards or the snakes that you guys have got.
Snakes.
Yeah. And it's just and I mean, the last time I was there, I was speaking with Lisa, your wife, and I was just getting pulled in every direction and just talked at my face, just trying to get me to pay attention. I can't even remember who it was now. And Lisa was just going, go away, just go away. And was not listening, just kept coming back and then just tugging at my like jeans and just going, come over here, Andy. So you've done well. You've done well bringing up a very sociable family.
They love people. It's whether it's Andy Dowling or the milkman that comes to the door, they're saying hello, how you going, what's your name? They're in your face. They want to know what you had for lunch. They want to know what you had for dinner. They want to talk to you. They want to get to know you. They want to be your friend. They want to show you their toys. They want to share their world with you. And you know what? I don't have a problem with that.
No, it's great. It's refreshing.
I prefer my children to do that than to just sit there and look at you and go hello and then just smile and sort of just stare blankly off into space. My kids have got their own personalities. They're their own little people. They just go. They enjoy life. They love their music as well. And it's just, like I said, it doesn't matter who it is, whether it's Andy Dowling or the milkman. They're going to be in your face and say hello and want to show you their toys the way they are.
And is it something that you both consciously tried to not the right word, drill into them, but to try and guide them in the right direction to be more social, or is it just something that's come naturally to them and they've sort of fed off each other to be that particular way, because they're all extremely sociable kids. It's incredible. I mean, sometimes you might have a family where maybe one or two of them are reasonably social, and there's probably one or two that are the opposite. But yeah, your kids all seem to be on the same page from the outside looking in, anyway.
We involve our children in a lot of things that we do. If we're doing something, we try to involve the children with it. They've always been part of what we're doing, and we're always a part of what they're doing. So if that instills a social interaction in them, we always encourage them to go out to meet friends, to go and play their sport, do their music, go dancing, do whatever they're doing. But to go out there, enjoy it, meet new people, meet new friends. Don't be afraid to say, hello, my name's Tyler, or hello, my name's Kai, or my name's Grace. To go out there and enjoy life and meet people and just have friends and be social. We have friends over for dinner, or we have friends for drinks or what have you. Our kids are out in the backyard with us.
Yep.
And until a certain point of time at night where we go, like, that's it, bedtime. We don't shun them indoors to sit in front of a television. If we're sitting out the back with a couple of friends of ours having a few drinks and a barbecue, well, our kids are out there too.
Yeah,
they're out there. They're not having drinks or barbecue. Well, they're not having barbecue, they're having drinks, but they're out there being part of it. They'll have their own bowl of chips. They'll have their own cups of cordial, and they'll have their own social interaction, with the other couple's children or just amongst themselves.
Yeah,
it's just what we do.
Yeah, no, it's one thing.
There's too many of them for us to deal with on our own, so we let them deal with each other.
Now, that's some smart parenting. But I think one thing that I've noticed, I mean, when the times that I've come over and even been out and about and seeing them, is that I think, and you'll be able to tell me if there's ever a case where there's somebody who isn't quite like that and is probably a bit more of an introvert. I think
they soon change them.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. They bring it out of them. They bring it out of the person, and someone might not feel like talking a great deal or doesn't really want to say or interact a lot, but they'll bring it out of them, and they don't do it. They don't. It's just, I can't even describe it. It's just such a genuine interest that they show in people, where they really want to just speak and interact, where it's not a case where there's a harassment where you might see some other kids that get bored and just start prodding other people to try and get a reaction, to get attention. Your kids are just there's a genuine want to interact and be social and converse and go backwards and forwards, and not just be I'm looking for attention and I'll do whatever I can to get that attention, whether it be good or bad. So that's it's a fantastic quality that they've got.
Thank you. I'll take that as a compliment. It's good to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. So my segue again. So
that was a bit of a tangent.
Yeah, it was, but that's okay. With Kai.
Yep.
And I'll give a bit of a spiel and a bit of a rundown in the intro as well, and I'm going to put a bunch of links and resources and things that people can read up about and get to know the story and whatnot. But look, you can do the long or you can do the short version, but I think probably there'd be a number of people out there that aren't aware of the story around Kai and the absolute sort of roller coaster that you've all been through as a family since he was born or leading up to his birth. Do you want to give a rundown of, I guess, where it all started and I mean, you might not be able to reduce this to a small short story, but you can give it a shot if you want.
I'll give it a go. I may or may not get through it. It is a very emotional topic for me. Yeah, it was late 2007. We found out that Lisa was pregnant again, which was a bit of a Well, actually, it wasn't, because Kai was sort of planned. Tyler was the pleasant surprise, as everybody calls it. Kai was planned as a playmate partner for Tyler. So yeah, late 2007, we found out that Lisa was pregnant, and given her age, we had to go for various testings and whatnot. And one of these testings was for chromosomal defects, where they measure. It's like it's down along the spine. It's a cord. They call it a transnuchal scan, and they measure it. And a measurement over X, I think it was about 2 centimetres or 2 millimetres, is considered a risky. Kai's come back 3 times the size. It was 6 millimetres. They then sat us down and told us basically that, look, he's going to have some sort of genetic defect, blah, blah, blah. That's when they found that he had an omphacele, which was we found out later was his liver was forming on the outside of his body. That, coupled with the measurement, then they said, look, the chances of him surviving are slim. There's a 1 in 3 chance that he's going to have Down syndrome. There's a 1 in 5 chance that he'll have Edwards syndrome, and all this different sort of stuff. And, you know, think of your other children. And it was really just being a salesman, and basically told us to terminate the pregnancy, basically. So fast forward, we didn't terminate. We got lucky. We got in with a geneticist at Liverpool Hospital who went through a bit further testing, and they said, look, you know, everything seems good. The chromosome levels are good. Everything's good. Okay, he's got the omphacele. We'll deal with that. You know, it happens. You know, he has an operation. They put his liver back in, and, you know, it should be okay. So cool. We transgressed further down through the pregnancy, through an Iron Maiden tour, of which Lisa come to 3 shows, I think she come to.
Yeah, right.
Down to Melbourne with me and in Sydney. And then we come back, and we had to go for another ultrasound, and that's when they found the heart defect as well. So then we're like, oh, wow. So they're like, okay, so he's got this liver problem, he's got a heart problem, he's got this transnuchal problem. We go through various specialists, various testings, and they come back and they hit us with a condition called pentalgy of Cantrell. Now, in numbers, pentalgy of Cantrell happens 1 in roughly 11 million births worldwide. The survival rate of that is 1 in 4. So the odds of Kai surviving the pentalgy of Cantrell and everything that he had going were 1 in 44 million. And just a quick jump forward, 7 years later, he's still here. So he is part of 1 in 44 million. Yeah. So, yeah, that was, Lisa went extreme high risk pregnancy. Not many obstetricians, gynecologists, nobody really wanted to touch the case. They all thought that it was a futile effort. The heart guy the heart specialist was saying, well, we'll have to wait and see what happens. If he lives through getting his liver put back in, well, then we'll see what we can do about the heart. But the liver guy is saying, well, you know, there could be other complications. And we're just like, holy shit, what the fuck have we got ourselves into? But, you know what, no one could tell us for certain that he wouldn't live, that there was that slim chance that he may have a few operations and everything can transgress. There was no chromosome defects. It was all, you know, surgical. So let's keep going. You know, by that time it was too far gone anyway. Lisa would have had to, you know, if we decided to terminate the pregnancy or whatever at any stage, Lisa would have had to have given birth and basically, you know, anyway, we don't go down that road. So fast forward to May, I think the last 2 weeks of the last 8 weeks, Lisa was out to Westmead Hospital 4 times a week. So travelling from Narellan out to Westmead 4 times a week for testing and ultrasound monitoring and heart monitoring and everything else. Then the final 2 weeks they put her into hospital. It was too risky in case she went into labour on her own, so it was all planned. He was going to be delivered on the 27th of May via cesarean. So that day finally come, and he came out and went straight over to the Grace unit over at Westmead Children's, which is the neonatal intensive care. They were planning on doing the operation to put his liver back in that day, but we found out that the liver surgeon that we'd seen throughout the whole pregnancy was in, I think it was in Fiji at the time, so we had some other surgeon that we'd never met, and he sort of had the case handed over to him. But a few emergency come through, and he never went for the surgery on the night he was born. He went and had the surgery on the 28th of May, 24 hours old, and he went and had his first surgery. So we'll fast forward a bit. They couldn't do the repair on his heart. He had a tetralogy of fallow, which is a missing valve, a hole between the chambers, but he also had a disconnected left pulmonary artery. So there was no blood flow down to the left lung. So they had to give him a medication to keep a duct open to allow the blood to get down to the lung so it would keep functioning until they could do a minor repair. So that come and went, and then after that, his diaphragm herniated and the liver went up into the chest cavity, which nearly killed him then. But they pulled it back down with a bit of a surgery, and that was a rocky road for a little while. And I think he was born in the May, August, September, October. I think it was about October. We were finally discharged home. No, September. We were discharged home. He wasn't completely repaired. He was still on nasogastric feed, so he had a tube down his nose to feed him and whatnot. But he was doing okay, and he had to have a full repair of his heart at some stage. So that was September. So we had September. About mid-October, we noticed a bit of a change in him, and we took him back in, and the cardiologist looked at him and they said, well, that's it. We've got to operate. We've got to do his repair, and, he's not managing. So that was mid-October. So that happened Melbourne Cup Day, 2008. He was booked in for his repair. So we took him in, handed him over to the surgeons, and they said, it should be a couple of hours, it'll all be good. And all told, I think it was about 6 hours he was in there, open heart surgery. Not even, it was May, June, July, August, September, October, November, 6 months old, open heart surgery. Up until that one, we had about 9 surgeries up until that point to get through it. And that day was probably one of the worst days of our lives. The surgeon come and he explained to us that there was given everything that had gone on prior with the diaphragm herniating and everything else, that his heart had rotated. So he had to manipulate the heart a lot more than what he had to. Like, he had to handle the heart, and the heart doesn't handle being handled. For one of, and I think it was. So we went and seen him after the surgery, and he's hooked up to machines and wires and pacemakers and what have you. And I sat with him for about an hour. I went downstairs to give Mum and Dad a ring, let Grandma and Grandpa know that everything had gone well and he was recovering. Next thing, the nurses there downstairs outside, looking for me, and I raced back upstairs, and Kai had arrested. He'd gone into cardiac arrest right in front of Lisa. They cracked his chest open. The nurse had a hand inside his chest, and she was pumping his heart by hand. He was clinically down for 28 minutes. 28 minutes he was down for. At 30, they stop and say, that's it, you're dead. They crashed in, they put him onto a machine called ECMO, which is extracorporeal membrane oxygenation, which basically does the function of his heart and lung outside of his body. So they stick a tube into the right atrium, and they stick a tube into the left ventricle, and they pump the blood, and this machine does everything for him. It done the function of his heart, his lungs, his kidneys, the whole lot. It filtered everything. So we had a 4-bed ICU room all to ourselves with a spare ECMO machine, an intensive care specialist, pulmonary, I can't remember their technical term, but we call them the pumpers, somebody to look after the ECMO machine, and an intensive care nurse 24/7. Four attempts were made to take him off the ECMO machine. Once he'd sort of shown signs of improvement, 4 times they tried to take him off, and 4 times he crashed and burned and didn't respond. Basically, you didn't. The heart didn't kick in and take over and do what it was supposed to do. So that was, yeah. And then it was the Friday after. It was the fourth time they come to us and they said, look, Monday will be the last time that we'll take him off. We don't hold any great fears. We don't hold any great hope that he's going to make it. We'll do the best. We'll take him off, make him comfortable, hand him over to you guys, and basically let him go peacefully. And we just said, I lost it. We lost it. Lisa lost it. And they said, look, you got family and friends, get them in over that weekend and say what you need to do and do what you need to do. So I'm like, okay, how do you deal with that? Basically, you've been told the day that your son's going to die. How do you spend the next 48, 72 hours coping with that? You've got 3 other children, you've got grandma and grandpa, and just like, how do you process that? I sit back now and go, how did I process that? How did Lisa process that? How do you process being told that on Monday your child's going to die? So we did. We rallied the family and everybody around. The hospital staff that come from the Grace ward where he spent his first 4 or 5 months, and the people just come from everywhere. The outpouring of support was just amazing. They'd used Kai's story as a major fundraiser for the Christmas appeal, for their major appeal to raise money. They used his story. So the fundraising team, the hospital staff, everybody, it was amazing. And there were a few things that happened during that time that I can't. I still find hard to talk about. But let's just say that they changed my outlook on life very quickly. The doctors then come to us, I think it was the Saturday night or the Sunday morning, and they said, look, there's this drug that they're using in Melbourne on adults that helps get them off the ECMO machine. We'd like to use it on Kai to trial it, to see if it will work. And at first I'm like, you want to use my kid as a guinea pig? No. And then I thought, well, hang on a minute. Is it going to lessen his chances? And they're like, no, we don't think so. Will it improve his chances? We don't think so. Well, does it work in older people? Yes, it works in adults, but it hasn't been tried in neonates or children. And we're like, oh. So we thought about it, we talked about it, and we went, yeah, okay, give it a go. It can't do any worse, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It can only be for the better, so let's give it a shot. So the Monday morning comes, and we're sitting there with him, and the doctors and whatnot come in, and they say, look, this is it. We'll take you away to a parents' retreat room, and you can wait, and we'll come and get you when we're ready. We got escorted out, and we said to the nurse, I said, look, what sort of time frame are we looking at? And they said, well, by this time we'd grown a pretty good relationship with the nurses and the staff there, and she said, well, look, I'll be honest with you, if the longer you wait to hear from us, the better. I went, okay. I said, in that, what do you mean? After an hour, after 2 hours? She goes, look, if you hear from us in under an hour, it's probably not going to be the best result. And I went, okay. I could accept that. And it's funny how your body processes it and your mind processes it. That's pretty much how I handled it. I went, yeah, okay, cool. And I just didn't, it didn't faze me, you know what I mean? And I don't know why it didn't. And we're sitting in the room just sort of talking, looking at each other, staring blankly at walls. And I think it was about 40 minutes had gone by and the phone rang in the room, and I'm like, no. 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 So I answered the phone, and she said, look, meet me in the hallway. And that, to me, it just didn't sound right, you know what I mean? It's not like come to the room or anything. It was a nurse that had escorted us down. She said, meet me at the hallway. And we sort of come out of the room, and we got to the hallway, and she was there, and she had a smile on her face, and she was sort of clapping, and she's like, he's responded well. This drug that they tried and everything else, he's responded. He's kicked on. He's beating on his own. The ECMO machine's off. Everything's looking good.
Yeah, wow.
Amazing. Yeah. I'm just like, okay, cool. No dramas. No, it's amazing. Look, you can't go and see him. The doctors and everyone is still there, but I just wanted to let you know that everything's looking good. So they took us back and I think it was another 20 minutes, half an hour, and the surgeons come out and they gave us the news and they said, look, he's kicked on, everything's looking good. We'll just have to wait and see now. And I'm like, well, what happens if it goes wrong again? And they're like, don't go there, because if it goes wrong again, we can't do any more. That's it. It's up to him now. He has to kick on by himself. We can't intervene. We can support and help, but we can't intervene. So yeah, he battled through it. And that was the November. I think we spent November, December, January. Towards the end of January, we spent in intensive care at Westmead. I gave up work. Lisa and I were tag teaming in and out. We had a parents' room at the hostel. So one of us was there 2 nights, one of us was at home. Kids were at school, balancing back and forth. Mid-January, we finally got discharged out to a ward. And then the 10th of February, 2009, they finally discharged us home.
All right.
Yeah. He come home, he was on oxygen, so he was on oxygen 24/7. So he was hooked up to an oxygen bottle or an oxygenator, which we had in our bedroom, which is a big pumping machine. So over night time, he'd get put in his cot and he'd be hooked up to oxygen. He was on kangaroo pump feeds, so he had a constant. They had a formula worked out. He had to have X amount of calories per kilo per hour. So I became a bit of a scientist and a physicist, and I had to work out, on a weekly basis, okay, this is how much he weighs, this is how much calories he needs per hour, and he was on continual pump feeds, and he just went from strength to strength to strength to now, October. But his lungs took a big hit. His lungs took a lot of damage when he arrested. The rest of his body parts and bits they were all concerned with. They were like, he'll have brain damage because of the lack of oxygen, or his kidneys will be damaged. He's going to have liver problems because it's enlarged, and there's this and there's that, and he's got blood clots in his necks, and everybody's, what he's going to be like development-wise, because he's been down for so long and the organs and everything was starved of oxygen. And that's all come back, throughout the years, that everything's been good in that aspect, but the lungs. His lungs have been his downfall for the last 2 to 3 years. It's been a constant battle with him with his lungs, and his heart was, we knew he needed another heart operation. They said in his mid-teens. Well, that didn't happen. It got fast-forwarded until he was 7. It took Lisa basically jumping up and down in a hospital while Kai was basically in heart failure at the end of last year. He was that close to death. It wasn't funny. He was hours away from death, sitting in one hospital bed, and they're like, we just have to wait and see. And Lisa started jumping up and down, and they finally just bit the bullet and chucked him in the back of an ambulance and rushed him over to Westmead and put him into accident and emergency. And he was in the beginning stages of heart failure. He was hours away from not being here.
Do you think that their reluctance to start off with was them just not understanding, or do you think too much red tape, or just a combination?
I think it was lack of I think it was lack of understanding.
Yeah.
Of knowing how to deal with such a chronically ill patient.
Yeah.
To deal with a child that had major complex issues in the past and everything else, and because he'd been in and out of that hospital with pneumonias and whatnot throughout the course of the last probably 2 to 3 years, his lungs sort of started to deteriorate. We noticed that he was getting more infections, he was getting more chest infections, he was getting more lung infections, and I think it got to a point where that was all they treated. They couldn't see that there was a cardiac issue on top of that, and I think that's what they were treating. They were treating more of the lung issue than they were with the cardiac. But given what Lisa had seen and what I had seen, not that I'd seen it in the last 2 years because Lisa spent most of the time with him, she could read him, she could see it. And we got a friend there that was a fairly highly trained nurse, and he was also a paramedic prior to that. He said, no, this is cardiac. He went to the NUM and he said he needs to go now, lights and sirens, to Westmead. He is in the beginning of heart failure. And that, until that point, they didn't do much. And that was when they said, well, shit, okay, let's get him out of here. And I honestly think it was like, let's get him out of here. I don't even want him dying on our ward.
Yeah,
that was my gut feeling towards it. And that was when it fast-tracked his next heart surgery, which was November last year, which is supposedly the last repair, but we've now found out that he may need another one in his mid-20s. But even that hasn't really helped him in the way of his lungs. We're still having issues with him now. He's still on nebulizers. We think that there's another underlying, his pediatrician now thinks that there is another underlying cardiac issue sitting there at this stage now. He's on diuretics to help him get rid of fluid. Fluid retention is a major indication of heart failure. He's still wet on the lungs. He's got bronchiectasis, which is going to be with him for life now because the lungs are scarred and they don't clear mucus the way they do. So the body's retaining fluid. And his lungs aren't clearing mucus. It's just going to recurring infections. But touch wood, we've been out of hospital for quite a few months now, and we're on top of it at home with nebulizers, and he's on nebulized antibiotics and nebulizers to make him cough and clear the mucus. He's on medications to help clear the fluid until we can get in and see his cardiologist and see what's going on further. So yeah, it's been a long 7 years, and that's just the condensed version. There's been many an issue in between times.
I mean, from the time that I've known you and Lisa, there's just always been something going on, and a spanner in the works, so to speak, of where things tend to settle down a little bit and seem to be okay, and then something pops up and back through it. And I mean, geez, I wouldn't even begin to even attempt to imagine what you've all been through. And it's a lot of people. As I said, you've got a large family, and I guess that's of great benefit. But it must be just incredible just to deal with so much. And the most incredible thing about it is for all of that trauma that Kai's been through. I tell you what, he's one chirpy kid. He's not anybody else, but you would forgive anybody to really sort of not give up, but just to really wallow in it. But obviously, no doubt, like anybody, he's going to have his good days and his bad days. But from the outside, he seems to be a very resilient little boy, and he's definitely taken it in his stride the best that he can.
But he is the toughest person I know. He's only 7. I've said it before, and I mean it. He is my hero. He is my inspiration for life. He's just, sorry. He is. I look at him and I think, how the fuck are you still standing? You've gone through 24 major surgeries, 3 heart surgeries, 2 open heart surgeries. You're 7, and I look at him and I am in awe. I really am, and I just and then to see him tonight or any night out in the backyard with his siblings kicking a footy and running around and being an idiot and just enjoying life. Everybody says that they're a proud parent, and I'm a proud parent. But until you've had or been a parent of a sick child to the extent, or it doesn't matter, a child that was so close to death, that was so sick, that it hit the ceiling of intensive care, that there could be no more done for him, that so many people said in the beginning we should have terminated him. People that said he shouldn't be here, people that said that, we're going to take him off life support, hand him over to you and let him go peacefully. He's just turned around and flipped them the bird in the biggest way possible. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, mate. He is the strongest person I ever know. And when you've got to give him his nebulizer at night time, he hates it. He just wants to be normal. He just wants to sit and do whatever. And, it hurts his throat. And he's a lot better now. He now understands and he accepts that he has to do it. But there are times when he just screams and kicks, no, I don't want to do it. And your heart breaks. You think, you've gone through enough. Okay, don't do it. Don't have your nebulizer. But in the back of your mind, by not giving him that nebulizer, just missing that one nebulizer could put him back in hospital. To leave that mucus in his lungs overnight, it could get infected that quickly. There's probably people sit there that go, well, it's not going to happen that quick. Yes, it does. It does happen that quick. I've seen it. It happens. So it's tough, but he's definitely an inspiration, and he's definitely got a shining light too that people just gravitate towards him. He is here for a greater purpose. Lisa and I have both said that. He's just the sort of kid that just attracts happiness. You can't help but not be happy around him.
Just going back to what I said earlier about just coming to your place, he's the same as the rest of your kids. He runs up and he wants to know who you are. He wants to let you know who he is, and he wants to show you things and talk to you. And when we did that show, the all ages show last year, and he was able to come out and watch it. It was just incredible to have him there.
He loved it. He loved it.
Yeah.
To this day, he still says it's the best night of his life.
It's just it's good from the outside because we can only I can only talk on behalf of myself, but I assume that for the majority of people, we only see it in one certain light, and we only see glimpses of things as things occur, and then everyone sort of gravitates back into their normal everyday lives and their own worries and their own things that take up their time and their mind. And but you and Lisa and your whole family have lived through all this all the time, and I guess those moments like that are probably even extra special. And for him, it's incredible for him that he's just embraced music so much, and he's been quite active with the School of Rock out MacArthur, and he's a budding musician. I think he's going to do some great things down the track, and it's incredible, as I said before, for somebody who's been through so much, and he's just a bundle of energies. He's just absolutely incredible.
Yeah, he loves his music. He loves he loves getting out there and bashing on the drums. A lot of the times he'll just sit out there and he'll just bash, literally just bash. And I go, guys, stop. But then I stop and I think about it. The reason he's bashing is because it gets his frustration out, I think. Especially when he's not feeling well and he can't get out there and run around when he wants to. He takes his frustration out on that drum kit, and then other days you'll see him, he'll sit down there and he'll knock out a rhythm and just play stuff that I just sit there and go, fucking hell, you're only 7, you're supposed to be playing this shit. And he does. And, it's a passion that he's got, and he's, like I said, he's here for a purpose, that's for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I think I know that he's still far from 100%, and he's got a long way to go, and he's going to have potentially more things down the track. But I tell you what, he's got a great support mechanism around him, and he's got the right mental approach as well. I think that's going to be and it has been half the benefit to him is being such a strong-minded kid that he can. Yeah. I mean that's probably helped him more than probably most people would realize. I mean, it wouldn't be a surprise to you guys, but for everybody else, I mean, I think he's, the way that he processes everything, the way that he, not everything, but because, 7 years old, but, taking things in his stride the best way he can. I mean, that's, the mind's an incredible thing. So, yeah, he's definitely,
it sure is.
He's definitely in the best position possible given his circumstances.
He wants to play footy. He wants to play the drums. That's it. He doesn't want to go to school. He doesn't need to learn. He wants to play the drums. His teacher's got a chart set up for him. If he spends X amount of days not tapping on the table with his pencils, he can then get 10 minutes of tapping on the table with his pencils. So it's just, yeah, it's crazy.
Oh, jeez. And one thing that you mentioned earlier on, and because I know, and we won't, I will definitely not go down this tangent, but I know that there's been a lot of goodwill out there and a lot of great things. I mean, even, Kai being on TV for a number of different things, and some great sort of community help, and then there's been some not so great help either along the way that hasn't exactly made life better. So we won't really touch on that. But I guess what I'm trying to lead into is for people that, whether it's directly for Kai, and I think for you guys, I don't think you guys are pretty proud, and I know that I think sometimes it's better to not have people trying to help because it adds further complications to things. But I think maybe in a general sense, I mean, you mentioned earlier about having to sort of manage life, manage the family. You don't have a small family, and then you had all these concerns, and even last year as well, and being in and out of hospital, just keeping life going in general for everybody and making sure that things work. What, I guess from your Joe Blow that might be listening, what are things that people can do to make life easier for people that are in your position, like other families that are going through these sort of, not exactly the same situations, but in other situations where they're really getting tested, from a family point of view to try and keep life moving?
Heart Kids Australia are a big support network. They do a lot for the families in the way of care packages and whatnot for people while they're in hospital. They've got a parents resource centre down there that mum and dad can go down to, and you can get a massage or a foot massage or something just to make that time in hospital just that little bit easier. They help out in various ways with different vouchers and fuel vouchers and Coles vouchers and all that sort of stuff that they donate to mum and dad, even to the point where it's a crossword book and a pen just to sort of pass the time while they're sitting in hospital. But not only that, outside of that, they put on a lot of family-orientated events for the kids and the families. This weekend we're taking off on Friday up to Myuna Bay for the Heart Kids family camp, which is totally free of charge to us. We all the Heart Kids get together, and all the families get together, and they put on a weekend of activities up there at the recreation centre, and fishing and archery and bushwalking and everything else. And it's a good weekend away for the parents and the kids to forget about life's problems for the weekend and just be with other people and that are in a similar boat that they can get along and enjoy themselves. They're a big, major support organisation that are there for families like ours and for kids like Kai. And it goes on further. They have the teen camp, whereas the kids are, move into the teenage years, they can go away without mum and dad, and then spend time with teenagers with like conditions and health problems, and that it's a big help. So yeah.
So I'll put a link for people to check out for that. And I mean the reason why I asked, and probably half the reason why I didn't put you on the spot because you knew I was going to ask you about Kai, but still putting you on the spot to go through and relive it all is, I think everyone for the most part, at least initially, has good intentions of wanting to do whatever they can to help other people, and sometimes there are better ways than others to help, and sometimes a good intention might end up causing further drama down the track. And it could be something like, for example, and I can edit this out if you don't want me to mention it, but I assume it's okay. You guys put together the Kai's Heart page on Facebook, and I think either yourself or Lisa mentioned it, but it was very obvious in a very positive way that it was the best way to keep people up to date with how Kai was doing. And you could put photos up there, you could put updates when he wasn't as well and he was in hospital and whatnot. And it just took the pressure off you guys for having to continually repeat the same updates to multiple people over and over again who all have the best intentions and want to show that they care and want to touch base and make sure that, you know, they're thinking of you all, but no doubt could get extremely exhausting to constantly have to go through the same thing over and over again and probably answer the same questions over and over again. So the page has been a great answer to that. And I guess, you know, whether it be Kai or whether it be anybody out there, you know, from in any sort of similar scenario, there are a number of resources and community efforts to try and help families and help the kids themselves to get through these situations. And I guess from the only thing that I can do to try and help is to give a bit more awareness to those resources, and, you know, whether it be in future support for you guys to continue to do everything that you can, or whether it be for other people out there as well. So, you know, you guys do have a lot of support around you, and I know that in some ways it's never enough, but in other ways it sometimes it's more than enough. But yeah, I think
But the tiniest bit of support is always welcomed. You know, you mentioned, you know, the Kai's Hearts page. That was set up, as you said. You know, the power of social media. Use it. It made life easier and less stressful for Lisa and myself during that time. You know, we could send one message to Michaela, or, you know, or we could do it ourselves. She could post an update. Everybody could see it. Everybody could leave their well wishes and their thoughts for Kai, and we could see them. And we didn't have to spend time answering 20, 30, 40, 50 SMSs or Facebook messages or phone calls when we really needed to focus our attention on Kai during that time. You know, and the people that were around at the time, you know, chimed in and dropped in with a tray of lasagna or a couple of barbecue chooks, and it just took that pressure off everywhere. You know, the community just got behind it. You know, you guys put on a bit of an all ages show. You know, I know that, you know, Kai was a bit of a motivation for you to get that happening, and that was brilliant. And then Trudy and the promoter head team put on a fundraising gig, you know, after he's had the surgery and everything else, and, you know, the support from that community was, you know, it was amazing. You know, to see a turnout to help support not just Kai but young Lucas, you know, Adam's son, the bass player from Tetris. He was born with a heart condition not too long beforehand. You know, and to see that, you know, so we had the support from our family and friends sort of here at home, but we also had the support from the Sydney music community as well. And to this day, it still goes. You know, people still do send a message or, you know, ask and or, you know, just give their time to Kai, to the guys from Sisters Dole that were on Australia's Got Talent. They took the time after the grand final to come out at the end of it and spend half an hour talking to Kai and Tyler, and it's just I don't know, it's just one of those things you sit back and you think, wow, it's amazing. The opportunity that was given to Kai to go backstage during Cabra when they had the support spot for the Blind Guardian. Before the doors opened, Mr. Dave Balfour worked his magic and got Kai in there during, backstage to spend a bit of time with the guys from Cabra, and just that sort of stuff is far more beneficial to him. You know what I mean? It creates a diversion. So he's not thinking about, whether he thinks about being sick or not, I don't know. But it gives him an escape. It gives him some normality.
Yeah.
Although it's not something that normally happens to have a 7-year-old go backstage at an international gig. But you know what I mean? It's just
normal in comparison
something.
Anyway.
Yeah, it gives him a little something, that just sort of gives him that push to go on. It's just, it creates a memory that he can be with. It's just.
I'll put a link to Kai's Heart page for anyone who wants to have a look, because I've got it open now. I can see the pictures from the other day when with the Sisters Dole thing. And I can see pictures of Kai and Tyler with the horns up, and I can see a Lord T-shirt in there as well, repping. It's classic.
That's it, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll put some links up so people can have a look as well. That's really cool. And I put links in there as well for I guess. I'll have a look, and if you think of anything else or other places around or any other support mechanisms that are out there that help families, I'll put all the links in there as well, because everyone sort of...
So everybody knows, you got Heart Kids, you got Heart Kids Australia, Heart Kids New South Wales. They're major supporters of the kids with the chronic heart condition. But not only that, the Children's Hospital at Westmead, especially their intensive care units, the neonatal intensive care unit is one of, if not the best in the country. They do an amazing job up there. They are just, way back in the beginning. He if he was ever going to make it through, it was making it through that first initial start as a neonate.
Yeah.
And the support that not only the nurses, the doctors, the lactation consultants for Lisa, they're an amazing team, and they could really do with some funding or recognition for the work that they do. It's a bit lacking in my eye.
Yeah.
It's a pet hate. I could go off on a completely different tangent, but I won't, because it'll lead to another 3-hour podcast. But.
That's right. We're doing all right so far. I think we've almost hit the 2-hour mark, so we've done well. But
wow, we might chase down Anwar's record.
Yeah, that's right. But I'll put some links up if I can find, or if you know or think of anything over the coming days of any sort of, I guess, avenues that people can go down to, I don't know, to throw money in that direction. And sometimes you have to wait for an individual fundraiser of some unique thing to get behind. But there might be some resources out there that people can gravitate towards and do something to contribute and make life easier for families out there that have to go through a hell of a lot. So yeah.
Well, the big ticket fundraiser for Heart Kids is their annual ball,
Okay.
the Tiny Tiggers ball. That's probably something that's out of reach for a lot of people. It's a fairly hefty price tag just to get in, but it's aimed at the corporate dollar. You know what I mean? It's not aimed to entertain mum and dad. It's aimed at the likes of the big business guys that have got it. that's got the dollars to throw at a charity auction to raise money. That's their big ticket event. So if there is somebody out there listening that is involved in that high flying corporate, Tiny Kickers Ball this year is in August.
That's right. Throw your money that way.
If you can jump in for a table, it's a great night. You get a 4-course meal and all your alcohol and a great night of entertainment. I donate my time and photograph the event.
Oh, cool. All right. Awesome. Well, I'll put a link to that, and we'll find a bunch of other things that we can put in there, because I think just anybody listening to Kai's story and what you've gone through, I think no doubt there'll be a natural sort of pull for some people to want to do something to try and help, whether it be, in the future or for any family that goes through similar sort of circumstances. So I'll put all that up there, and people can have a look and contribute if and when they can. And of course I'll put up all the MickG photography stuff as well. Put a bunch of links there, and people can check out what you do, and maybe we might find a couple of Maiden things to put in there as well, just to keep keep all the Maiden fans happy.
Very good.
Awesome.
Very good.
Well, I think 2 hours is pretty good, and we can always come back and have a chat down the track.
2
as
hours
well.
Is very good.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll let you go, and we'll talk soon. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for listening. Another lengthy podcast, but I think that was well justified, don't you? I always prefer the lengthier podcasts anyway. It's always gives more opportunity to have a proper conversation and not have to worry about the time, so to speak. They're much better than the quick burst where we've got to watch the clock. So yeah, hope you got plenty out of that. And I'm going to put a whole bunch of links and resources on andysocial.net. So get over there and have a look. If you don't normally check out the show notes, I strongly encourage you to do so. I'll put a bunch of things there, especially if you feel compelled to donate some money or some time to spread the awareness and help highlight a lot of great organisations and charities that do a lot to help families and children that go through a hell of a lot, such as what Mick and the whole family, especially Kai, have been through and continue to go through as well. And I'll put a link up to Kai's Facebook page as well. He's got a community page that his sister Michaela keeps up to date. There's a lot of great photos there and a lot of updates, and you can have a scroll through and get an understanding of what they've been going through and keep up to date and provide some encouraging words of support. And I know for a fact that the whole Goddard family would be very appreciative of any words of support. But yeah, it's a great idea that they've had, and it's a good thing to look at and look through all the great pictures there. And Kai's certainly had some great adventures over the last few years. That's about it from I'll think if there's anything else I can think of between now and the time this podcast goes up, I'll add those links into the show notes. Please, this will be also up on YouTube. Even if you don't listen to the episode on YouTube, if you want to make this easy access and spread the episode around, use the YouTube link, and I'll have that posted up on the Facebook page, which is, or you can just search for Andy Social on there, or youtube.com/C for Charlie /Andy Dowling, I believe. And you can subscribe to the YouTube channel anyway. But that's a great link that you can use. A lot of people prefer to listen to things on YouTube, so that's another additional tool there to help get these conversations out to more people. A couple of little housekeeping things. As always, get over to iTunes, rate and review. It's a pretty quick and easy process. You can do it through iTunes itself on your PC, laptop, MacBook, whatever you use, or you can do it through the podcast app on your smartphone. If you don't use Apple and you listen via RSS or Stitcher or Omni, or just directly from the website. Any way that you can show support by whether it be liking, sharing, commenting, whatever's available, all those interactions help expose this podcast to more people, and the more people that listen, the more opportunities there are for me to do more episodes, interview and speak to more people. I use that bad word interview, but you know what I mean. and continue to give more to you guys as well. I mean, as I said at the start, in my long roundabout way, a great thing about this podcast, and I have seen it already in a large way, is that many people get something great out of it. They learn something new. They get a new perspective, some reassurance about something that's been worrying them. Anything. There's been quite a number of things that are helping people become better people, and for me, so importantly, it's definitely helping me grow as a person. And the more that I talk to people, whether it be people that I've known for quite a few years or more or less strangers, I'm learning more about people around me. A lot of potential anxieties that I've had or worries about things, I'm learning that, most people go through the same things. And in some cases, people go through a lot more than I do. And it's a great way to get some fantastic perspective. It definitely helps me approach things with a calmer persona and a calmer approach, where things don't faze me the way that they used to, because I know that life's pretty damn good overall. So it's a great learning for me at the very least, but it's fantastic, and it's just such a bonus to know that there are people listening that also get something out of this as well. So as always, any feedback, any suggestions, any advice, anything whatsoever that you guys want to pass my way, I'm always open and extremely willing to receive anything. This podcast is for me, but it's also for you guys as well. And the more that I can get you all involved, the more that I can hear from you all, the more that I can understand what you'd like to hear, what you'd like to learn, any concerns that you have or things that you're looking for answers for. I'll always try and fulfill them and see if I can find people out there to try and link in with anything that you guys are after. And this is all about making this podcast into a community and into a posse of people that we all band together. And it's just a case that you get to hear my voice as opposed to everybody else. But part of this will be bringing guests on and telling more stories and getting more conversations happening. Finally, just very quickly, May 28th is my podcast party. I'm probably never going to change that title. It's probably just going to be called the Podcast Party. If you're in the Sydney area and you've got nothing to do on Saturday, May 28th, Jordan McDonald, who was on episode 32 of my podcast, has been extremely generous and has offered to supply the fun room at Frankie's Pizza, which is a small, I believe, whiskey bar, for me for a few hours from 6 p.m, just for us and anybody who listens to the podcast. So I'm not advertising this anywhere apart from me carrying on about it verbally via these episodes. So it's up to you guys whether you want to tell others about it, but I'm not making any big song and dance online via social media or emails or anything of the such. So no Facebook events, which I'm sure many of you are jumping for joy at. So it's May 28th, 6 p.m. at Frankie's Pizza in the fun room. All it is an opportunity to meet up, have a chat with all of you guys, whether it be one person, 5 people, 10 people, 50 people, 100 people, whatever it might be. This is all about just having a few drinks and being casual, just nothing, no formal agendas, no presentations, no shows, nothing like that. It's just a case of getting together, having a chat, having some drinks and having a good time. And I'll see if there's other things that we can do over the coming weeks leading up towards the date. But I wanted to use this as a little bit of as one mechanism and one particular thing to start building this community, build these people around the podcast, and have you guys as listeners be contributors to the podcast in a whole range of ways. And I have a number of ideas up my sleeve for the coming months as time moves on, as this podcast gets bigger and better. But this is all about really making this a group effort and making this a really cool thing, even more so than what it is at the moment. So more details as they come to fruition and as they come to a head over the coming weeks leading up to May 28th. And as I've said in previous episodes, if you don't live in Sydney and you happen to be in town around that time, by all means, come along, especially if you're international and you're travelling to Australia and going to happen to be in Sydney around that time. Shoot me a message, contact me via whatever channel you can find me on. I'm pretty much a social media whore, so you'll be able to find me very easily. And let me know you're in town. And I'm happy to help provide directions. I'm happy to meet up beforehand, whatever it might be. But it's all about bringing all of you guys together and having a few drinks and enjoying ourselves. Anyway, enough of all that rubbish. Andysocial.net, all the show notes from this great episode are on there. By all means, get out there and support some fantastic organisations doing great things for many, many great people, not just from this episode, but from all the episodes to date. A massive thank you for everybody who's tuned in for the first time. I hope you stick around and listen to more episodes. There's some fantastic guests that we've had the pleasure of having on, and a massive thanks to everybody who continues to support week in, week out. And I promise that there'll be plenty more fantastic guests coming up in the future and lots of other great things in store. So stay tuned. Thank you, and we'll talk soon. Bye.